So Nisha, do you have a favourite guitar player?
Herman Lee's pretty cool.
Hey, I met that guy. Whilst the name Buckethead might not mean all that much to the majority of people watching this, to guitar aficionados and painfully obnoxious hipsters, it is a name belonging to one of the most talented and weirdest guitar players alive today. A guitar player who directly credits his guitar playing prowess to chickens.
Okay, Buckethead. That's clearly not his real name.
No, Buckethead was born one Brian Karl, but he has been performing under the name Buckethead for the last few decades, and his musical output rivals that of entire studios. And he has put out somewhere in the vicinity of 300 solo albums since he first started making music. People might be thinking, well, clearly, if you're releasing that many albums, some of them must be filler, or just like, random tidbits that release and called an album. It's like, no, I should point out that each one of those albums contains at least 25 minutes of new music written, composed, and recorded by him.
He must be coming up with new songs every day for that.
Pretty much, yeah. And people might be thinking, well, what kind of music does this guy play? The answer to which is everything. And there will now be a little fact bar below me just talking about or just discussing the various genres he has composed songs in, but they're insane. He's released more albums than Michael Jackson, Prince, and David Bowie combined, and they're three of the most prolific musicians in all of history. And this guy's just doing it in his bedroom on his own, just recording a new album every single fucking week. It's crazy. And that's just his solo output, because he's also worked with a multitude of other musicians, a small list of which will again be featured below. And he's appeared on the soundtrack for films as diverse as the music he himself puts out. So, for example, he helped make the soundtrack to Last Action Hero and Saw 2. And that reminds me of a lot of Hans Zimmer. It's like, oh yeah, that really famous composers and all these really amazing movie soundtracks. And then he did a soundtrack for Modern Warfare 2. And I just really like that. It shows range.
Yeah.
Which is what I think is the most impressive thing about musicians, when they have range. Not just that they're very proficient in one area, it's that they're proficient in many areas. And in Buckethead's case, virtually every area of guitar playing available. Because he can play virtually every known style of guitar. And something that might not be clear from the pictures of him behind me is that he's 6'8" tall.
Really?
He is a huge, huge guy, and he has to play custom-made, slightly larger than average guitars, because his hands are so massive he can't play regular guitars. And before we move on, there's one thing I have to address, and that is the long-standing rumour that Buckethead played the lead guitar on the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers theme song. And there is a rumour that has gone around for years that Buckethead did that, because it is known that he helped work on the soundtrack for the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie in some capacity. But exactly what on it he wrote or played isn't really clear. So again, it's just a rumour, but I just like the idea that in addition to all this, he also maybe played the Power Rangers theme song, which is one of my favourite riffs of all time. And it's super fucking awesome. Oh, I love this guy.
You mentioned that he worked with quite a lot of famous musicians, worked in some bands.
Yes.
Have you got examples of that?
Well, the most famous example of a band is probably Guns N' Roses for their Chinese Democracy album, which I think took a decade to get released. After the departure of Slash, they chose Buckethead to replace him, which I think, for laymen who don't really know much about music, they know Slash isn't a synonymous with guitar playing gods.
Yeah.
And Buckethead was chosen as a guy to replace Slash. And as you might imagine by the pictures behind me, folks at home, this is a very weird man indeed, and it's noted that he will refuse to play or record music without first putting on a white mask with a bucket of KFC on his head, the importance of which I will explain in a moment.
Guns N' Roses, they're a band who could probably get anyone they wanted.
Yeah, they are a household name. If they needed a guitarist for one of their albums, if they put the card, they can get whoever the fuck they want.
So did he approach them, sorry?
No, Buckethead was approached by Guns N' Roses, which I think just highlights how good he is. I think they heard via session musicians and people who say oh, you want a guitarist, get Buckethead in. He's weird, but he's fucking good. So they got him in, and they largely tolerated all of his weirdness, which included, and I'm not making this up, setting up a chicken coop in the recording studio, which he would sit inside to play guitar.
Okay.
Yeah, and they let him do that, obviously, again, while wearing his white mask and his KFC bucket on his head. And they also even tolerated him leaving a big pile of wolf shit in there. You're probably thinking, wait, Karl, how did wolf shit get inside a chicken coop that's inside a recording studio? Well, the answer is Axl Rose had a pet wolf puppy, which Buckethead was playing with and then shit in his chicken coop. And then he said, oh no, leave it, it's fine. And when the band were asked, why did you let him just play in a place covered in wolf shit? And he went, oh, because he likes dog poop.
What?
So he felt at home. Just don't question it. He likes poop. and they let him off. However, I will say that they did eventually draw a line when he brought a TV into the recording booth and put it inside the chicken coop, which itself isn't that weird, but he refused to play anything on it other than hardcore pornography, which he would watch as he played.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm speechless. I don't know.
There's nothing more to say on that. This is a really weird... And just think, though, this is Guns N' Roses. If they wanted to get... They could have brought anybody in. The fact they tolerated this says how good the guy is.
Despite all this weird stuff, did he go on tour with them as well?
He actually did, yes. And Buckethead's weirdness didn't end at the recording booth, because when they went on tour, he was like, yeah, sure, I'll play. But I want to go on stage and do a techno dance routine with a set of nunchucks. I think it got to the point where Axl Rose said, look, man, you are really, really good, but you need to cut this shit out. And eventually that he parted ways with the band because he was too weird. I don't think anything sums up just how much friction there was between Buckethead and the band when Axl Rose, legendary prima donna asshole Axl Rose, said, now you're taking the piss. A guy who will go on stage 2 hours late and then yell at the crowd for being mad about it. And he got annoyed with Buckethead's antics. Like, even they couldn't put... I think there was interviews with him and say, the guy is one of the best guitarists I've ever seen. He's just too fucking weird. Okay,
so we've established this guy's weird, in the studio, on tour. Mm-hmm. So what is he like in interviews?
Well, he doesn't really give many, but when he does, he is exactly as weird as you might imagine, and he absolutely refuses to break the Buckethead character. So he will give all interviews in the white mask with the bucket of KFC on his head, and sometimes he will not talk at all. Sometimes he will talk through a puppet, which he claims is absolutely real and is communicating on his behalf and is its own distinct entity. I'm not making any of this up.
I'm just imagining Mr. Garrison.
Basically, yeah, it's that level of delusion on display.
Does Buckethead ever, pick up chicks, right?
He's scared of girls. He doesn't understand the feeling that he gets.
Yeah, you keep mentioning the KFC bucket that he wears on his head.
Yeah, it's specifically a KFC bucket, and it's changed over the years. Like, Buckethead, he just changed his style. Sometimes it's just a regular party bucket of KFC. Sometimes it is a party bucket of KFC with the word funeral writ across it. Sometimes it's just a plain white bucket if he can't get hold of KFC that day. And according to Buckethead, in these in-character interviews, he says that is a monument to the millions of dead chickens that have been killed by people, and specifically KFC, that he is channeling via his guitar playing. And he claims that he's not actually a good guitar player, he's just a conduit for the millions of dead chickens out there, and that he is playing for them.
So when he plays, it's like the sounds of those dead chickens are coming through his hands.
And whether or not this is true is irrelevant. It's the fact that Buckethead maintains in character that it is. And whenever he gets asked, well, you're so talented in a variety of guitar playing styles. Like, you are one of the most accomplished virtuoso guitarists on planet Earth right now. How did you attain such a level of skill? He will always say the same thing, and that is, when I was a child, I observed the chickens pecking at the ground, and I mimicked their movements with my fingers on a guitar, and it sounded kind of neat.
Wow.
So he solely credits chickens for his ability to play guitar. And I know what the audience is thinking. Well, Karl, he must have broke character at least once or twice, and he has on rare occasions. I think in the Chinese Democracy sleeve notes, and he just thanks his parents. And another time that he broke character is when he was contacted by one Marcus Henderson. If you're not familiar with that name, he's one of the guys who helped make Guitar Hero.
Well, I'm definitely familiar with the Guitar Hero.
Which one though?
Mainly the third one.
Okay,
I did dabble in the second one a little bit, but I didn't enjoy it as much as the third one.
Well, if you played Guitar Hero 2, and if anyone out there did, you probably started to recognise Buckethead's name because he wrote the song Jordan, which fans of Guitar Hero largely agree is one of the most difficult songs ever put into one of those games.
Or even harder than Dragon Force.
Opinion is divided. Let's just put it that way, because I don't want to start the argument. But to many people, Jordan is one of the hardest songs in the game. And Marcus Henderson was a big fan of Buckethead, so he was aware of him and thought, well, this is a game celebrating guitar work. Or at least it was when they were making Guitar Hero 2. We need to get this guy involved in some capacity. And Henderson managed to get hold of Buckethead and was surprised to learn he was a fan of the first game. And he asked him, well, we were hoping you'd contribute a song. Buckethead says, say no more. Then the specific details of the conversation have been lost, but according to Henderson, Buckethead just asked for a few technical details, like how long do you want the song to be, what time signature is it in, that sort of thing. He went, okay, leave it with me. A few days later, Henderson got a call from Buckethead, who simply said, this is the best thing I've ever done.
So what you're saying is he wrote this entire song in a couple of days?
Not the entire song, no, because Jordan, the main riff of it, which I'm guessing is stuck in people's head now if they play Guitar Hero 2, was something he'd play on stage. And what he did is he wrote a new guitar solo to go in the middle, and apparently he wanted to make it the most difficult song in the game, which is why that song is so fucking difficult to play. I think on the Xbox 360 version, you get an achievement, and I think now he's added that song to his repertoire, so whenever he's on stage, he'll always play Jordan, so he knows that's the song everyone likes the most. This guy's fucking weird, and I love him. You do you, Buckethead, you do you. So correct me if I'm wrong, Nisha, but you are a big fan of the Guitar Hero games, yes?
Yep, huge fan.
Okay, and it's number 3 specifically is the one that you like the most?
That is the first Guitar Hero game I played when I was younger.
I think that's everyone's, yeah.
It's got all my favourite songs on it. Like, for example, my go-to song that I could always play on hard mode.
On hard mode? Oh.
I couldn't do expert, but on
No
hard
one
mode.
can do expert. Everyone who says they can is a liar.
On hard mode was always The Killers. Oh, it's just so,
When you were young?
Yeah, it was such a good song to play, and it was my favourite song at the time as well.
I think mine is always Cliffs of Dover by Eric Johnson. I love that song so much. It's so catchy.
It's so fun to play.
It is. It's really fun to play, and it's what inspired me to actually pick up a guitar myself.
Yeah.
It's one of the few things I can actually still play on a guitar now. I've not played it in years. I fucking love Cliffs of Dover. It's so fun.
The only song I can't play, probably on medium, is the Dragon Force one,
No
obviously.
one can play it. That song's ridiculous.
I think we can probably get through it if you star power early on.
Yeah.
Or you save your star power, and then when you get to the guitar solo bit, which is the worst bit, I think, just
Well, the
star
guitar's
power
insane.
through it.
And do you know what my favourite thing? We can talk about this because it's stupid as fuck. And I actually had a chance to ask Herman Lee about it. And it is, do you know in Guitar Hero 5, Guitar Hero Live,
Oh, yeah.
in that game, so like people don't like Dragon Force, it's a 7.5 minute long song, I believe, 3.5 minutes of which is just pure guitar solo. It's insanity. It is like infamous. I think it actually helped put the band on the map. People know the band because of that song.
Yeah.
And in Guitar Hero 5, which they call Guitar Hero Live, you get it live 5, they said, oh, we've got to put Dragon Force back in because that's the song. People know that song. People fell in love with this series watching people try and play that song on YouTube. But they put in the music videos in the background
Yeah, they did, yeah.
of the song. So it's live. You're playing along with the band. The thing is, the version of Through the Fire and the Flames in the music video is 5 minutes long. They cut out 2 minutes of the guitar solo. So the whole point of the song to playing guitar is 'cause it's 7 minutes long. It's just it's a test of endurance as well as skill. When I asked Herman Lee about it, they hate it. And it's the studio that told them, well, you can't make a 7 minute long music video. It has to cut it down. And I think his quote was, if someone's going to butcher the song, it might as well be us.
Yeah.
So they chose what's cut out. And it's like, oh. But the thing they cut out is the grinding scales, which is my favourite bit of that song. 'Cause it's so fucking cool. And I remember I played Guitar Hero 5. My mate bought it. He got 2 guitars. We went in, we sat down, we got them out. I went, oh man, I miss Guitar Hero. Guitar Hero's so fun. And we go Dragon Force straight down. You've not got any tokens. What do you mean I've got no tokens? Well, it's fun fact in Guitar Hero 5, you have to get tokens to play songs. So you can't just play a song over and over again to practice and get better. You have to just play whatever it tells you to, unless you pay them money.
Oh.
It might not surprise people to learn this game fucking died and flopped harder than a match being kicked into a pun. But I went, oh, we'll play that. It got up to the bit and I noticed that the grinding scales weren't in it. I went, well, it's not the full song. This is useless. And I put the guitar down. I'm not playing. I'm not playing this game. It's useless.